Welcome back to the Hoops Temple podcast. Y'all know me, Nathan Schwartz. Joining me in Sacramento, Aaron Schroeder. Aaron, how's it going?
It's going great, Nate. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. We're here. We're trying to get up to our top 400 ranked. We might have to split this into two in editing, but at least for recording, we're going 351 to 400 straight, no breaks, no stops. How you feeling?
I feel fantastic. We are not doing two parts. This is one part. Anything less than that is a failure, and I will settle for nothing less.
In recording, in editing, I may cut this. If it's like 3 hours, so be it. We signed up for this. Our listeners, our poor captive audience, they can have a break. Way we've been doing this, if you've been following along, we've ranked these guys out by positions. Then we take the top 5. There are nominees. I've lined them up on the screen if you're watching us on YouTube. So you can kind of see who we're looking at as a bit better of a visual reminder. Our point guard nomination is Nick Van Exel. Our shooting guard nomination is Dick Van Arsdale. Our small forward is Gerald Wallace. Power forward is Sharif Abdul-Rahim. And our center is Zildrunas Ilgauskas. And before we begin, I had meant to do this a while back ago. Oh, and just have this be like how we start all of these pods. How good is that starting 5?
Oh, interesting question. They're good offensively. They're real good offensively. Gerald Wallace has a lot of defensive responsibilities right now. In the East, they're like 49 wins.
Second round?
Yeah, second round. You know, they have some scoring options.
Maybe. All right. I kind of wanted to see what we were thinking. Now, Aaron, the way we normally do this is we separately work on our lists. And I built out my list to 400, so I would have my list of nominees. And I decided that I really hated
it. Okay.
I was running into positional roadblocks. And I was like, I would rather have this guy who's lower on our positional charts higher, and rather have our, just flip-flop it around. Like I'd push a guy down, and I'd like hold up all of our point guards and then be like, man, this guy should be 20 spots higher. He just had this dumb guy in front of him. And that's how I feel about the start of this list. Nick Van Exel is slightly better D'Angelo Russell that we've just forgotten about. This is 1-2-3 Cancun. This is a man who, yeah, sure, he led the playoffs in assists per game one time. Those are Rondo assists. Those are not helping anybody assists. This man is, he's a distraction on a good team, and he's not that good on a bad team. Can we push him back?
It's just brutal. So mean to Nick Van Exel. Holy shit. Yeah, I think it's a good case. People are gonna look back more fondly on D'Lo too, because just like this guy was like 18 points a night. Like he made that All-Star team. Wasn't that cool? Yeah, where are you looking for though?
So I'm actually looking to do a bit of a reshuffling here. I would like to move up Guy Rodgers, and Guy Rodgers is actually my nomination for 351.
Wow. I had to convince you of Guy Rodgers who made the point guards list. I'm curious to hear this one. I hold on to all of these, by the way. Every single time you've ever disagreed with me, I write it down on a sticky note. Like Nate did not like Guy Rodgers. Hold this grudge, and I do.
So I don't actually fully believe that's true. I want to see the sticky note. If it can be found in your mansion, like proof. But we had the quote, Guy Rodgers far overcomes his size handicap by being the best middleman on the fast break since Bob Cousy. Almost as great a speedster and dribbler as Cousy was. Guy can outmaneuver and upset giants. He's the point guard for the 67 title team. He leads the league in assists per game twice. Just of the guys here, we have a really high level contribution in being a starting guard on a title team.
I think we're actually missing that a little bit. I think we're off on that because he is traded, or he's.
Oh, you're right. He's in Chicago.
Drafter, yeah. But we'll say let's add that he was the point guard on Wilt's 62 or 50 point per game season. Well, what's interesting is he's racking up like lots of assists that I'd say it's like, how much of this is Wilt Chamberlain? And I think the transition quote, you can look at that and say, like, oh, it's just Wilt. But I think the transition quote and then him going to Chicago and doing it again, cracking 11 assists, which is, I think only Oscar had done that at the time, like the second player. I think it's a great pick in the Hall of Fame. Like, also, just to make this clear, Guy Rodgers is a black dude. That escaped me for the longest time. Guy Rodgers is like the 50s point guard. It has to be a white guy. Is not a white guy. Just trying to save the audience from my own mistakes.
How do you feel about 351? Is there someone else you like more?
So I already had 351 names. So I'm curious
It's
where that happened. What's going on there?
It's Tyrese Halliburton.
Where is he? Is he off the list?
You banished Halliburton from the list, but I don't know if you fully removed him.
Oh, no, I didn't take him off this one. All right. There it goes.
I had the same thing when I started off today. Trying to make sense of it.
I'm at 399. Stupid Tyrese Halliburton. Okay. So, well, obviously my nomination was not Guy Rodgers, given that I had to pretend he wasn't the best player here because Nick Van Exel was in front of him. Let's throw him on there. I feel good about it.
I really, you're gonna hate me for this because like normally we do the top 5 of each of the positions. I ended up doing 2 at each position and sometimes 3 at each position, and just kind of sorting and shuffling through it because listen, no one's going to go back through our 300s and tell us we're wrong. That falls on us to try to reshuffle these guys. And so I really wanted to get this list right, and so that's a bit of my thing. With that in mind,
tell me about the other point guard stuff, because you say, is it just Rodgers that's moving up, or is there more going on?
I want to kick Nick Van Exel down quite a ways. Let me see how far.
Let's get that straight, and then we'll move on.
I would like to drop Nick Van Exel all the way down. Well, so here's the thing, and this is why I didn't want to do just the shuffling, because I'm dropping him below. So I want to drop Nick Van Exel all the way below Al Servi and Buddy Jeanette. I feel like those guys had a place and time in the league, and I know it is early, it's 40s, 50s basketball, but they were cornerstones of franchises. Nick Van Exel is a journeyman and unwanted in a lot of places. But I also have some reshuffling around in here where I'm dropping some of the ABA guys like Brian Taylor and Bill. I'll let you pronounce the last name for Bill.
Melcioni?
Melcioni. I knew it was very Italian.
Hey, Melcioni. Is Melcioni playing tonight? Get a fucking pizza pie and go watch the Nets play. All right.
Gabagoole.
All right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. We'll get there when we get there. My next guy was Gerald Wallace. That was my next nomination. Just an impact defensive player for a long time. In an era like the scoring is low, but he does get up to 18, 19, 17 points a night in an era where it's like that was actually like a kind of a solid amount, especially given that he is a great rebounding forward, topping out at double-digit rebounds as a small forward, and is over a block, over a steal per game. At times in 2006, he averaged 2.5 steals and 2.1 blocks. He's third defensive player of the year voting in 2010, and the impact numbers we can find back up that he actually was a really good defensive player.
Now, Aaron, if I ask you, who is the greatest Charlotte Bobcat? Who do you tell me it is?
It's Wallace. If it's the whole franchise, if expansion on, it's Walker, but it's the best one. The best Bobcat is Wallace.
The best one to wear a Bobcat jersey. See, this is where I disagree. I think it's Al Jefferson.
No, it's not.
Jefferson led the team to the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay. Whoa. Wait a second. Dude, the 2010 Bobcats make the playoffs. They win 44 games. They get their ass swept just the same. I think with Wallace, you see him be an actual impact defender throughout his career. Well, Jefferson is just like that's so bad defensively, and it only really comes together for a little bit.
One magical season,
It's a magical
2014,
season. He's
22
not even
points
an
per
all-star,
game,
though.
11 rebounds per game,
Yeah.
All NBA third team, 8th in MVP voting. Are we going to sit here and tell me that Crash Wallace needs to be over Al Jefferson?
I do like some Al Jefferson.
I do like some Al Jefferson too. This is the
I had
problem: is that Al Jefferson got stuck behind Zydrunas Ilgauskas.
Oh,
and
is
I
that
think
what
we
you're
were way
doing?
too high on Big Z. Yep.
Really?
I think we need to drop Big Z down, and I think we need to give Nikola Vucevic. I know you're still on the warpath with Orlando, but I think Vucevic and Al Jefferson need to come up. Ilgauskas and Brad Miller need to slide down. Vucevic.
I'm not putting Vucevic over Brad Miller. I refuse to do that.
Vucci Main.
No, it's not gonna happen. Brad Miller was a legitimate like impact player on playoff teams. He's like his offensive numbers are good. Good passer. In the Western fucking Conference. Okay, let's do Jefferson and then Wallace.
I think you're overrating or remembering Brad Miller to be greater than he was. And I looked back through it, and there is like stretches where Chris Webber is hurt, but the playoffs aren't really that impressive. And we're talking 0-4 in Sacramento, 10 points, 9 boards, 3 assists. Not starting 30 minutes a night. It's fine. It's good. But like with Nikola Vucevic, you have a decade of him averaging 19 and 10, 4 assists, and Orlando's pretty shit, but he does lead them to the playoffs. He has one magical playoff series. Is against the Bucks. Where are those numbers?
So where was Al Jefferson on that centers list?
Al Jefferson is 66th.
Yeah, and that was behind Big Z already, and Vucevic and Miller. You want to move him above all those guys?
I want Vucevic, then Al Jefferson. Then I'm fine with Crash.
Holy hell.
Aaron.
all right. All right.
Are we friends? Are we friends?
Yes.
Okay, because this might test this.
Okay, so we have Guy Rogers, Al Jefferson. No, Guy Rogers, Vucevic.
Yep.
Al Jefferson, Wallace. Where the hell did I even have Vucevic, dude? I think I missed him, honestly. This is a complete error. All right, this is off to just a crushing start. Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Go.
But it just there are some guys in here that I think we just got too excited for or overrated for some reasons. And like when I was doing it by myself, this exercise, like Rodney McRae for the small forwards, I was like, he has one good playoffs run. He's pivotal in the 86 finals run. But like it's
I wasn't
2 playoff series.
That's gotta be you. I did this exercise with my brother, and I was like, "This is some Nate shit." I don't even know who this says. Nate put this fucking guy on this list.
I will fully say I remember finding a ringer or oral history of the 86 finals, and everyone talked about how his playmaking and defense was like the key to beating the Lakers. I'm like, yeah, it was. It's also like one series. It's like saying Ty Lue should be on here because his defense against Allen Iverson was the key to winning the finals. And
Allen Iverson fucking torched him, dude. What are you talking about? Iverson's 0-1 finals is great. Okay.
Yeah.
Way off topic. Way off topic. All right. So let's do Vucevic, Jefferson, Wallace. Then I had Brad Miller. I think the thing with Miller is it's so hard to find the on-off numbers are really good. Whether it's just straight up on Basketball Reference or the cleaning the glass stuff, and his teams are winning. And I think you have a pretty good passer, a good rebounder, and just a pretty decent scorer. And it's like, you're not thrilled about it. He's not a specialist, but he, like, his team, the teams he goes to play well. They play well.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Right.
I'm gonna throw a lot at you. I'm much lower on Brad Miller than you are, but there's a lot of things, a lot of moving objects that I'm gonna be throwing at you.
Okay, next I had Nick Van Exel, but I guess not anymore. I mean,
No, get him. You want to do Nick Van Exel because you want to get to some of the point guards behind him.
Yeah, that's how we did it. I think it was the right way to do this, but you run into that issue. Well, my next guy was Ben Simmons. Then
We already did Ben Simmons.
did we?
We've already locked him in.
Holy shit! You're right. All right.
Can I pitch to you a couple of?
Walk in the back.
I would like to do Larry Costello and Derek Harper.
You just murdering the point guard.
Just
fucking
around with the point guard.
Bringing it out. Okay. Yeah, I think Costello's like Hall of Famer. The stats are good. He fit like 50s Nick, 50s and 60s Nick. And you get like the 6 all-star teams and all of that. Like, I think foundationally, it's hard to gauge exactly, like, to compare cross era in that sense. But I think this is a good slot for him. What else do you have on Costello?
6-time All-Star, 1-time All-NBA. He does get the championship ring with the 67 Warriors. That's where I'm starting to get my wires crossed. But he's an efficient shooter for his day. He's one of the top players at his position for half a decade. And I don't think that's a thing that we can say about a lot of these other guys left on the list. Like, Goran Dragic is a starter and maybe an above average point guard for half a decade. Nick Van Exel, I'm not even going to say that for. But, like, to be a guy that was one of the guys at a time period, if we're looking at him saying, hey, these are his 80s numbers, and this was his 80s impact of being a 6-time All-Star, he'd be in the 250s. I think at this point we just should have him here, and I'll accept him or Derek Harper, either one then you want to go for or first. I realized I flip-flopped them when I was transferring them over to this list here, but
yeah, let's do Costello first. And so the point guards list gets a bit of a shuffle again. So right now we have Guy Rogers, Costello, Derek Harper, then Mark Jackson and Goran Dragic. Is that the same order you have as well?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Put him in there. I like Harper. You get some more responsibility on some good Mavericks teams, and then he kind of transitions into this just scrappy defensive kind of facilitating guard for some really good Knicks teams, and they trade for him the year that they make the finals. That was just like 1,200 games played, and for someone that was more of a defensive guy, like still 13 points a night on good efficiency. I really do like Harper.
And like those Dallas teams in the 80s don't get quite as much attention. Like, they don't ever make the finals. They do have a Western Conference Finals run in there, but he's like the defensive side, while Mark Aguirre or who's the other guy that they traded Aguirre for? Dantley. Blackman. Dantley after him. They've got like other scorers, and Harper is like the consistent defensive presence here for the team.
He plays 38 minutes a night in the 94 finals. Like he is out there. 38 minutes a night again, averaging 17 and 8 in the 88 conference finals for Dallas.
Yeah. So it's not star quality. It's not build your team around him. I think in
380.
I think at this I think at this range, I'm looking to what would you be if the pieces fell right around you? What would you be like? What kind of is your best case scenario? Like, what did you do? But also, where could you fit in? Or are you only fitting in if you're like ball dominant? I'm a lot less interested in the guys that need the ball in their hands at this range. And so I would actually be very interested in going on a little bit of run at shooting guard.
Yeah, I could be interested in that. I still have. I had Marcus Camby next, and then I had a run on shooting guard. I was gonna say just nailed the Derek Harper over Van Exel. I don't know how he fucked that up to start. With Camby, you get just a really elite defensive player. I think the last player where it's like, wow, like the basketball reference page pops out, the tape pops out in the way he defends the rim. To win 4 block titles, to be a consistent DPOY candidate in the mid to late 2000s, to win a defensive player of the year. Now his offense is really bad. But for someone like that's such a strong rebounder, like there's that as well. I mean, he's basically 10 and 10 with 3 blocks for his prime. Like it's really valuable center stuff. His teams are good. They don't win very much, but they are good. Like he finds his way on good Nuggets teams. He's also like the forgotten piece of the Ewing theory. Everyone says like the Knicks are better without Ewing. He's the center that stepped up. Like he's the guy they played instead in the conference finals. I'm a big anti Ewing theory proponent. I think it's horseshit. But still, Camby played well.
I mean, I think the lost part of Ewing theory is if you're playing a guy based on reputation and age, and you have a young, able guy behind him, like
yeah,
replacing.
It's not just without him. It's like you have a good replacement. It's the replacement theory. But also, the Knicks get blasted in the finals. They score like 79 points a game. Bet you wish you had your all-star center now.
Okay, I didn't have him up this high, but I like it. He leads the playoffs in blocks per game 3 times. The 07 playoffs, he's averaging 15 rebounds a night. And the man is cleaning up for Carmelo Anthony and Allen Iverson. That's a defensive task.
Oh yeah,
that you need someone for.
Man, I didn't even think about that angle. That you should put him higher because of that. How good are they defensively?
The workload of having
11th. That's crazy, honestly. The 11th best defense, and it's J.R. Smith, Allen Iverson, and Carmelo Anthony. Holy shit. It's the greatest defensive player of all time. Okay, throw him in there. And then
they're the 10th best defense.
Wow. Okay, man. Just you want to move Camby up? Are you discovering gold right now in the Marcus Camby mines?
I mean, I had Camby over Brad Miller. That was part of my shuffling. Are you willing to move Miller down?
Yeah, fuck it. All right.
Flip flop him?
No, just move Camby up. You know what? Just leave it how it is. Too much. Okay. I had Van Arsdale. We can start talking about shooting guards.
Yeah. I want to do a run on shooting guards. I want to reshuffle them a hair bit. Because I think we were way too high on Frank Ramsey. But I want to do Dick and then Fred, and then I'd be up for I guess Dick and Fred now. And then a reshuffling because we're way too high on Frank Ramsey. The man is the backup to Bill Sharman. He's playing like 20 minutes a night. Yeah, he gets 7 rings. Fucking wheel me out there. I'll get 7 rings playing behind Sharman and Kuzi with Bill Russell. Like, I don't think there's any.
You know what? I want to push back on that. I want to push back. I feel like he does have playoff runs and has finals where he is playing substantially. I'm just list off his finals. In 57, it's 21 minutes and 12 points a night. 58, 31 minutes and 20 points a night. 59, 31 minutes and 23 points a night. 60s, 36 minutes a game and 18 points a night. And then 30 minutes a night and then 50 points a game and 61. And then he kind of tails off. But like it basically like, what is it? 4 finals, 3 rings that he's like, I'd say a high level contributor to, like really playing for. And at this point, like, let me look at the shooting guards list.
All right. Well, let's first just lock in Dick and Fred Brown.
Yeah. Shout out Fred Brown. I love players that play for the same team their whole career. I really don't like Fred Brown over. Well, first of all, did we do Mark Jackson yet? Mark Jackson's still.
Mark Jackson's point guard. We have not done Mark Jackson.
Yeah, we've not done any. I like Goran Dragic more than kind of more than like Fred Brown. The
Okay.
thing with Brown is he's just not playing very much. Like after year like 4, he's like heading towards the bench. And while like the Sonics are good, they win this 79 championship. He plays 15 minutes a game. Like he is really not playing. It's 25 minutes a night for his career, sub 30 after age 28. Like he's just less and less and less. And I just am not that into it. I would take Dragic. His 2020 playoff run was incredible. He has an All NBA team.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's. Are we still good with Dick though?
Yeah, that's good. You get a little expansion Suns. Now the thing is, like, this happens to a couple guys where they're pretty good and they get picked up by an expansion team, and every team had an all-star, and it's like 20 points a night. He's our all-star, and all the teams aren't great. They get good pretty quickly, and he still kind of maintains that level of play to an amount where I respect it. And of course, if someone's got to score 20, it's like that is challenging, and I think it's a good player. Also, famous twin, like I'd say the famous twin in league history.
Yeah, I mean, until the Morris brothers. Like I think now the Morris brothers are the more well known. Both Van Arsdales have 3 All-Star appearances. They're probably the best twins, but like, yeah, come on, Thompson brothers, Asar and Amen.
Oh, there you go. That should be the next one. They're like the first. Like I just think that the Van Arsdale twins are such a staple in like the NBA circles for like decades and decades and decades, and well respected gentlemen. All right, so that's Dragic at 360, right?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing about Dick Van Arsdale right now. And that is, yes, he's snagged by an expansion team where he's then like forced to do everything. That probably isn't the best case for his career. Van Arsdale can play make and can be a ball handler, but like Van Arsdale is a knockdown catch and shoot guy, or just like a straight up shooter. If Van Arsdale is on a good team, he's Klay Thompson, but instead he is asked to be, I don't know, like a team's Gordon Hayward, like the Jazz version of Gordon Hayward. And that's just would be much better with better teammates. Like what he brings to the floor isn't made worse by having more talent around him.
And I'll back up that Klay sentiment that he does make an all defensive team. So there is that two-way stuff. All right, 40 more names. List them.
Listen, it's the night of the dragon. I gotta just talk for a brief moment about Dragic's farewell game because it was fantastic. It was a complete goofball, utter nonsense. Jokic's off the backboard to himself dunk was fun, but it was also fun that there was no pretense of this being a real game. Like the game ends with his son coming out there and just crossing up Jokic and hitting layups, and his son is like 6. But they went out and played soccer. It was a very fun night. I think the NBA should rewatch that game and never have anyone near the television production side of it, anywhere near their product. But whoever did the like in between events and everything, that's how the All-Star game should be. It was a lot of fun to watch.
It's a great call. The gimmicks were, from what I had heard, very very tasteful, very good. I do think Jokic is going to break out the off the backboard self alley-oop when he sweeps the Lakers this year. Like that's his finishing move. Game 4, LeBron's final game, off the backboard Jokic alley-oop.
God, that'd be fantastic and kind of make me cry at the same time.
Okay, who's your next poll?
Well, my next poll is Fred Brown, but if you don't like Fred Brown, I'll also talk to you about Shareef Abdur-Rahim. If you don't like Shareef Abdur-Rahim, I'll talk to you about Scott Wedman because I want to push down Rodney McRae.
I do like Shareef Abdur-Rahim. I think you get just, tossed into Vancouver. I mean, there's a place you don't want to be in the NBA. It's Vancouver Grizzlies basketball, dude. For people with it's 800 games played, he has the worst winning percentage of all time. It's not good, but at the same time, you're getting someone that is worth like 20-8, even if it's on the bad teams, right? Like someone has to do that. The other interesting piece is he does get all NBA votes in 5 different seasons. And so part of me feels like the league's at least viewing this at the time. It's like this guy's stuck in this situation because he's a talented player on a really bad team. And it's I don't blame him for that. He went out there on a team that no one else had to be even guarded and gave you 18 a night. And on fairly on efficiency, that's fine. He's a plus true shooting added career guy. So I feel good about that.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of the bad luck of getting drafted to Vancouver off the bat. When he gets to Atlanta, Jason Terry is ecstatic. Jason Terry is like, the two of us together, we're gonna win 50 games. We're gonna make the playoffs. Do you want to know what happened that season?
Well, given all the things I just said, I'm guessing about 35 wins, and they missed the playoffs. I mean, it has to be right.
33 wins, but
Okay.
what happens that year is basically every player not named Sharif Abdul-Rahim or Jason Terry gets hurt, injured, or traded. Like, Theo Ratliff ends up only playing 2 games. That's like I mean, he's in all defensive conversations there. He's done. Tony Kukoc cooked. Emmanuel Davis plays 28 games, starts 20 of them. Do you know who Emmanuel Davis is?
No. These are historically bad rosters. Early 2000s Atlanta, really not great. We're going straight into the Josh Smith years. And I mean like the baby Hawks, like the 2005, what they won 19 games or something, 17 games in 05, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's rough stuff. And then I think he might be the only person to ever say this. But he gets to Sacramento just a moment too late, like right as they're declining. And that is his like the best team he's on is the post Weber, post Peja, like it's him and Brad Miller Kings. So you know, I can't fault him too much for it. And the man plays through having his jaw wired shut because he believes in like, hey, I want to make the playoffs. That is his fight, his intention. He's like here for it. So I really love Sharif. I wish he had better career circumstances.
His best game came in 01 with the Hawks. The final score was 99-106, and the Hawks won. He had 50 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 1 block on 21 of 30 shooting. It's pretty good, man. 50 ball. Yeah. I wonder how many 50-point games there were in 2001.
Not many.
7?
No.
Let me look it up. Take me 2 seconds.
Just toss that shit in Stat Muse and see how quick that AI can get back with you.
I'm cooking. Wait, doesn't understand. How many?
For those of you following along at home who don't have your massive big boards up, I'm going to read the top 2 that we have available at each position. At point guard, we've got Nick Van Exel and Mark Jackson. Shooting guard, Fred Brown and Frank Ramsey. Small forward, Rodney McRae and Scott Wedman. Power forward, Bob Boozer and Kevin Willis. Center, Zildrunas Ilgauskas and Sam Lacey.
All right. I have your answer. Now, I'll give you the number. I want you to guess some stuff for me. Now, there were 6 of them. One of them was Abdul-Rahim. Can you guess the other 5 people to score 50 in the 2002 season?
Tracy McGrady.
Yep.
Figure that Orlando run. Shaq?
No.
Kobe?
Yes.
Shaq is no, Kobe is yes?
Yes. Kobe is yes.
Okay, so we've got Abdur, Raheem, T-Mac, Kobe. Duncan, I feel like had a 50
Duncan
ball
has
at one
one.
point.
I also want to make sure it's Abdur-Rahim with an R. It sounds like Abdul, and I occasionally, it's very similar sounds. Okay.
Yep.
All right, you have Two more. Both guards.
Both guards.
Both
Stephon
shooting
Marbury.
guards. No. Both shooting guards.
No, both. Was Vince considered a shooting guard that season? No,
I don't know. I don't know, but
dabbles.
he did not. He did not get 50 points. It's right there. Like the crazy high volume shooting guards, Hall of Famers, first ballot, both of them.
Oh, Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan, and the highest scoring game of the 2002 season belongs to.
Allen Iverson.
Allen Iverson. Thanks for playing. Woo woo woo.
I was like thinking of Iverson as a point guard in my mind because of his size. Is I will always make that mistake, and it just took me a second to realize shooting guard.
Cool. But that's the company Raheem is in, right? That's a bunch of crazy high volume guards, and it's like this power forward. Anyways, way too much time on. You know what? Not enough time. This should be a 6-hour.
Not enough time.
Not enough. That's what I mean to say. It's not that we took too much time. It's that there's just not enough hours in the day for this. Okay. Let's do Mark Jackson.
You ready for Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch?
Yeah. Crazy longevity, wins an assist title. Now, I had someone on Reddit tell me that he's a ball stopper, and I get that. Like the back to the basket rule is like partially because of him. It's like him and Barkley, but it doesn't necessarily mean like it can be bad. But I feel like his teams are playing. He plays in 26 playoff series. He's averaging 29 minutes a night throughout his career. He plays till age 38. Like, if he really wasn't good, I feel like that wouldn't happen. Does that make sense? Is that my grasping at straws there?
Are you still talking about Mark Jackson?
Yeah.
Okay. You said back to the basket and Charles Barkley, and so I was like, did you switch over to Kevin Willis?
No,
like, a lot of things you're saying are still true about Kevin Willis.
It's like I looked at it, I was like Mark Jackson and Barkley rule, basically. It's like just backing someone down because Jackson was like kind of a thicker, heftier guard, and so I guess you get that, but the passing's nice. Offensively, it's like an inefficient 9 points per game. But you say it's like, hey, this guy's gonna facilitate, average 8 assists per game for 1,300 games. Like, I'll put him on this list.
And I think the thing with Mark Jackson is you have to kind of understand the Indiana Pacers offense. It's Reggie Miller run around a bunch of screens. If you're waiting for Reggie to run around a bunch of screens, you need to protect the ball. Just turning and backing a guy down while keeping your passing vision open to find Reggie, that's a good way to protect the ball. If Reggie doesn't create space, now you've created an offensive advantage. It's not like he's pick and roll Mark Jackson. I like it. I'm a big fan of Mark Jackson. Fred is starting to slip on my rankings, and Scott Wedman is starting to slip. My next guy is also Kevin Willis. How do we feel about any of those three?
I like Willis. I think when we come down to this point, it's so interesting how what we value changes depending on where we're at in the list. It's like I wish I could have like a physical currency. If like, well, I'll trade you 15 years of Kevin Willis for 3 years of Ben Simmons, and with Willis, he plays forever. It's like 88 to 07 or something. Let me double check that real quick. It's 85 to 07. He's the oldest player ever to check in an NBA game. At 44. And so you have that, especially the fact that he destroys his knee in 1989 and then just like, actually, I'm fine. Like, I don't need that. I'm going to go play another 1,000 games. He played, just 1 second. He played like more than half his games after the age of 30.
I love this note about Kevin Willis, that he is the worst player who has played 1,200 career games in VORP. He's got a -1 VORP. But when I hear that, I'm like, he played 1,200 career games. Like, I don't care that he is the worst VORP of all of those guys. He is out there playing. In 92, he makes an all-star team, all-NBA third team. He's averaging 15.5 rebounds per game. And he's battling Dennis Rodman for the rebound title. And he delivers a quote basically along the lines of, like, no shit, Rodman has more rebounds than me. That's all Rodman does. I actually
Mhm.
have to score. My team needs me to do things. And I think we see that borne out. Or when Rodman and I believe it's actually the next year that Rodman goes to San Antonio. But when team needs Rodman to score and he can't, Kevin Willis could. He's not a shot
Yeah.
blocking center. He's a really good rebounding and scoring power forward.
It is so interesting. Do you have that quote? Because I always tell that story, and I say that quote, and
No.
I can't I feel like I made it up in my head, but I swear to God, I saw that, and I was like, "No, that's a good point." And I've been spewing that on the internet ever since. But in that 92 season, he's third-team All-NBA, he's an all-star, he's 18 points in the league, he's 15 and a half boards per game. He's like, "This
Mhm.
is horse shit. I have to fucking score too, dude. What's going on here?" Okay, let's do Kevin Willis.
Um,
And let
if we're
go
gonna
ahead.
do Willis, I think we need to do Juwan Howard and Uncle Cliffy Robinson. These guys are all the same. It's like flipping a coin that's heads on both sides.
Mhm.
Um, these guys are just insane longevity. Yeah, they have one All-Star season each, basically. Cliff Robinson actually has a little bit more. He's got the one All-Star, two All Defensive, one Six Man of the Year.
Yeah.
Um, he's the defensive stopper on some of those Blazers finals runs team. Bit minutes,
Mhm.
but like him,
Great
Juwan
career,
Howard,
though.
absolutely great careers. All three of these guys. Like, there's never a point in time where you wouldn't want them. Either when they're young and up and coming, they still have the good intangibles. When they're in their peaks, they'll fit in around in any roster construction, any style of play. And then at the end of their careers, they're veteran leaders who are really helping teams out.
Yeah, I mean, Howard gets to the LeBron Heat years, and he was like a Fab Five Michigan guy. I think about what happened to the rest of the Fab Five Michigan guys. They did not play that long. Um, okay, Uncle Cliffy at 365. I think Fred Brown can slot in here. At this point, he's my next guy.
Wait, I'm missing someone. I got Sharif at 361.
Yeah,
I double did 362. That
there you go.
There we go. All right. Fred Brown now. Downtown Freddie Brown. I'm just saying that's got to count for something to have that cool of a nickname that describes what you do as just a
Yeah.
deep bomber.
Downtown Freddie Brown. Oh yeah, I mean that's a top tier nickname for sure. Okay, my next guy was the next shooting guard, which is Danny Ainge. And then we're kind of running into some players that I think I have Lacey and McCray, but I feel like we both wanted to lower those guys.
You said you have Danny Ainge next.
Yeah, I liked Danny Ainge. Did you not like Danny Ainge?
I'm not seeing Danny Ainge on my list of available selections.
I think you forgot about Ainge.
I try to.
Oh, I do. I know we did. I'm not sure why that got shuffled. That's so strange. Okay, yeah, no, you're right. He got put in the earlier categories. Okay, I wonder
That's kind of
why
what I was thinking.
why did that get shuffled?
I'm like looking at my list. I'm like,
Yeah,
I
no.
don't see him.
Okay, see, he was actually before ours still. How did I mess that up? Okay, we're all good. We're right in this ship. So now I do have Lacey. I know you hate Sam Lacey. I wrote this on my little sticky note. Nate hates Sam Lacey because he's a king. And I get that, right? I think you get someone that did make the playoffs with the Kansas City Kings 4 times, which is like impossible. You can't tell me the teams are bad because they're making the playoffs. He makes his all-star appearance, but also just like kind of statistical anomaly. You're getting let's in the 75 season, he's getting 14 rebounds a game, 5 assists a night, 1.7 steals, 2.1 blocks, and 11.5 points. I need to run that through statcast stat head and see how many people replicated that stat line. I don't know if it's many people at all. For a center to be dishing out for nearly 4 assists per game for his career, upwards of 5.7 and 81, like there's clearly something going on here because that team makes the playoffs too, like in 1980. Um, they win 47 games. You can't say it's on bad teams.
It's
No.
fine. It's fine.
All right, that's
Who
all
are
I
the best
needed.
player? Who are the best players on those teams?
Sam Lacey. Otis
No,
Birdsong.
Otis Birdsong and Phil Ford. Can I
Yeah.
ask you
And
what
we have
happens in 81?
those guys both get hurt and they make the
And
finals because the
behind
Kings. Scott Wedman? Is this Scott Wedman fault?
Scott fucking Wedman. I don't know what you're talking about. Me trying to hate on Kings. I've been pushing the Scott Wedman agenda
I like
right here.
Wedman. I just think it's such a. I'm not gonna. I just don't. I wish there was more. I wish there was more to Wedman's career
Sure.
other than like they basically like they figure out small ball and they're like, you know, we learned from that nothing. I will now play the worst basketball we've ever seen for the next 15 years, like until Chris Webber gets
Let's
here.
just keep Sam Lacey in here. That's what we're missing is more Sam Lacey.
Well, Lacey's healthy in the 81 playoffs. It's the guards that go down. All right, let's just do Lacey and then because I actually would have been quite a ways away.
And
I
then
think well the reason I had Wedman so low is McRae was holding him back. I just wasn't that into it.
Yeah, McRae really held him back. I basically want to do a whole run on small forwards here that I think makes a lot of sense. Because like I actually pushed McRae and I pushed Jim McMillan back a little bit. Just looking at what some of the guys here, it's shorter peaks. It's Xavier McDaniels, Kelly Tripucka, and Jalen Rose. But I think each of those guys brings something of value and has a time where I don't quite know how I want to put it. They're impact players in the league. There's something, they are someone. Maybe less so Jalen Rose. I think I actually do have him
This is getting
sliding.
real
Yeah,
existential.
Jalen isn't.
There's something, somebody,
well,
someone, somewhere. I liked Jalen Rose. I think he is the best player on the 2000 Pacers. And it's hard to stomach that, and it's hard to understand that. And it's really close with Reggie. I'm not gonna like die on that hill, but he's like really crucial to a finals run. So I think
he's the all-around glue that makes that team work. He never
just
makes
a
an all-star team.
huge guard. Never does. Huge guard. I think Rose's career is like, well, because he gets picked up by the Bulls, like the post-Jordan Bulls right after this. And it's like if Vancouver was bad, Chicago is close to as bad during that stretch. There's another Jalen. There's
doesn't
another.
help either.
There's another Jalen Rose quote that I swear to God I saw sometime. But now, if you look it up, it's like NBA 2K is so popular that you'll never find it in a million years. But it was him, like, because he's on the Knicks with like Crawford, right? Him and Cry, it's like that group, and they were awful. And the sideline reporter talked to him, and he was like, I don't know, I put us in 2K, and we were pretty good. I swear to God, he said that. And I can't find it. I know he said it.
Dude, some of the early 2K quotes are fantastic. Like
Mhm.
immediately after the Malice at the Palace, I forget who the guy is. I want to say it's James Johnson or James Jones. It's a James for Indiana. It's the Pacers' first game post Malice in the Palace, and he goes off for like 27 points. And they're literally, they sign a guy because they're below the minimum number of guys to play in this game. They needed they just needed a body on the roster. And this guy, it is James Jones, has a game of his life, and they ask him like, how is it feeling? He's like, I do this every night on 2K.
That's awesome.
And it's just one of the best quotes.
That's fantastic. Okay. Well, we were pushing, that's Wedman at 368. We're almost at our 375 cap. We've failed. But I don't think you possibly can go fast enough to get 50 done in an hour. It's like not physically possible. With any sort of quality.
I was playing on 3 hours.
Yeah, no, it'll probably be here for quite some time. So with McRae, did you want to drop him further, or do you want to just say he's next? because he
I just
is
want to
good.
talk to you about Xavier McDaniels. I think McDaniels is our next guy.
X-Men. I like Xavier
One-time
McDaniels. I
All-Star.
wrote that in my sticky note. I liked him.
5-year stretch of impact play, 20 points, 7 boards, in playoff series where he plays 30 minutes or more. He's in 9 of them. They go 4-5, and he's an impact player. I don't know what more there is to say. Like, it's not a flashy defense or anything. He's a little bit versatile, can play up, can play down, 3 or 4, but fantastic athlete and doesn't really develop too much more. I think he should be our next guy at 369.
I'm all about that. You get a really exciting player, just a really bright personality. He's the X-Man, dude. Have you seen the green poster with him like holding he's like in superhero garb?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's actually doing that. No, I think that's like I forget. Anyways, but you get these really good Seattle years. It's like him and Dale Ellis, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah, like that
I think
group
so.
just a really. He also has the best Larry Bird story, which is telling the story about how Bird hit the game winner and was like, "I'm gonna come down here and I'm gonna hit this shot in your face," and he's like, and he did it. And Bird just did exactly what he said, and I respect X-Men for owning up to that story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, X-Men talked a lot of shit to Bird when he first got in the league, and it has been very open about like, don't talk shit to Bird, don't do it. It's not a good idea. Like, I did it. He yelled "Merry fucking Christmas" in my face. He's like,
Mhm.
it's just not good. Any interest in Kelly Tripucka?
No, because do you want to move McDaniels higher, honestly? Because I'm looking at like you get the 87 run where he's like 20 points, 8 boards, 3 assists. They make the conference finals. The numbers seem better. The era is better. The team is better. Why don't we like McDaniels more than Wedman?
I mean, I could take him over Wedman. I
Let's do it.
wouldn't hate that. Do you want to move him over our cluster of good but not great for a super long time guys in Mark Jackson through Cliff Robinson? You muted.
Yes, I would. I
Okay,
would
so
like
all
to
the way
do
up
that.
to 362.
Yeah, sounds perfect. The Tripucka. Okay, so I forget. I need to start writing stuff down. I write down every time you wrong me when we're making these lists. I keep a little notebook.
When
But I
do I
forget.
ever wrong you? This is so just
But I forget to
sad and
write down.
vindictive.
I forget to write down these these stories that I cannot find again. But it's a Bird basically asking Isaiah Thomas, like, "You guys have a white guy guarding me? Like, what is going on?" He's talking about Kelly Tripucka. I know he is. I forget if I could verify that or not, but he's like the only white forward on the Pistons during that time.
I have the story. It's
You
when
have?
he's with the Hornets. Uh, it's
Ah,
Rex Chapman telling the tale. We put Kelly Tripucka on him. We went out for the jump ball. Larry looked at the rest of us and said, "You're putting Tripucka on me?" Nobody said anything. It's like, all right, hey guys, whatever. We're running it. Forget it. 4 down, and just started running Kelly into the post, calling his own play. And in 4 possessions, he had 4 baskets, an and one, and an assist. We had to mix it up. But Kelly was no longer guarding him.
man, I scammed my Patreon people because I know I wrote that story as if it was Isaiah. I swear to God, Isaiah Thomas said the same thing. 1 second.
I want to let you. I'm 90% sure Isaiah Thomas has said the same thing. This has been a reoccurring theme of people trying to put Kelly Tripucka on Larry Bird.
Yeah,
And he's like,
I
"You
have.
guys putting a fucking white boy on me?"
Here's Isaiah Thomas. Larry Bird disrespected by white guys. Larry Bird told Isaiah Thomas, "Don't put a white dude on me." That's funny.
Yeah,
All right.
he'll get
So that
torched.
I think with Tripucka, it's you get some good offensive seasons. He's a high level scorer. In that Charlotte year, he's averaging 20 a night, like the most random 20 a night season you could find in like early 90s Hornets. If you're saying like if the Pistons were they weren't like they didn't win the title with Dantley. They were that much further away. Like I'm trying to, you understand what I'm saying? Like the gap between Tripucka and Dantley
Yeah.
is the same between Dantley and Aguirre on how that team mashed together. Those those early '80s, like kind of mid '80s Pistons, like weren't not great. Like not as serious as contenders as they would be later in the decade.
All right. Then I'm gonna tell you this. If you're not interested in Tripucka, my next 6 players are all shooting guards.
Wow. Shooting guards.
Not necessarily the shooting guards we have in this order.
Yeah. Okay. So okay, I figured that because we moved Alex Groza down. We moved Alex Groza down, and that was long ago. We moved him down because he plays 2 great seasons and then he gets suspended for the college gambling scandal. And when I ran into Ralph Beard, it's the same thing. It's the same idea. He's like the best guard in the league, and he gets cut out. If anyone's ever wondering why are the mid '50s such a strange and weak era for the NBA, there you go. Ralph Beard and Alex Groza were the stars. Like they were gonna be the next big stars, and it's basically just Mike and until Russell essentially.
Well, Bob had it.
No, I'm saying like it's in terms of. It's just the mid '50s. You're weak. That's what I'm saying. Like you get like the weird, like it's like Neil Johnston. It's like the Nationals get in there, and it's like what's happening. It's like it's like just the for a league that was already kind of on the fringes, I guess. Like we're still gathering things together in the '50s. Losing those 2 guys hurt the product.
Yeah, it's not Bill Sharman because he was playing. Bill Sharman would cut out the second half of the NBA season and go to spring training for baseball. Like,
I didn't know.
But I forget. Yeah, I forget who the other Celtic was that chose playing for the Celtics over being a teacher and took a pay cut to do it. Like between the fact that teachers were making more money than NBA players, like it wasn't a position that people were fighting to get into, and then having the best collegiate team be handed a pro team and then all be suspended. Not all of them, but the best of them get suspended for a college point shaving scandal. Like the 50s are definitely a talent weak era.
I actually did not know Sharman played baseball. That reminds me though, trivia question. You're the only person to be named All-American in football, basketball, and baseball. He's within the shooting guard between the what we have ranked so far in 300. I'll give you one guess.
Oh, Danny Ainge.
Danny Ainge. It's incredible.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Not exactly like you don't really look at Danny Ainge like that guy's a 3-sport athlete, but he's just incredibly talented. All right.
It's all that milk.
Must be. Okay. All right. Tell me about the shooting guards, Fred. Tell me the guys you have and the order you have them because I totally derailed that.
So the highest guy that I have left is Hershey Hawkins. Hawkins takes over in Philadelphia for Andrew Toney after Toney kind of falls apart. And as the rest of the 76ers kind of fall apart, it becomes just him and Charles Barkley. And he's the number 2 guy. He has a very similar statistical profile at the start of the 90s through like a 3 or 4 year stretch to Reggie Miller of being a higher volume and a higher percentage knockdown 3-point shooter. From 89 to 96, 17 and a half points per game, almost 40% from 3. So 39.9. I guess it's not higher than Reggie Miller.
Mm-hmm. He was a great defender in college, and the steal numbers do translate as well.
Yeah. Did not have ball handling skills. Was not a like on ball guard. Really should have been a Klay Thompson, but
I think you get that later in Seattle, though. That's kind of where I'm at with it. Is I think you do see him kind of fit into a better role, and like he's make the finals, man. Like I think it's a great pick. I'll put him next.
All right. Right after him, I feel like Jeff Malone. Just a very similar case. You see the Utah offense take off when he gets there with his spacing and shooting. neither of these guys should be a primary ball handler, should be a guy that you build around, but they're a guy that you could throw on any roster in basically any era, and it's the team is made better by them. I think at this point, that's something I'm very interested in.
There is a guy who used to comment like to make a Jeff Malone profile. I think he did that shit for like a month. I'm so sorry to that guy. I never did it. I just didn't. I could do it now, but like I didn't know what to say about him. Like I've learned so much. I've grown so much as a person. You get, I mean, just these really high scoring seasons. At first in Washington, he's 20 a night. It's 3 assists, 3 boards. Like this guy's out here. He gets his buckets and he goes home. When he gets to Utah, he really helps their offense. They kind of transition into this like Eaton defensive specialist team into this like Stockton Malone, two Malones thing, and that's better offensively. So that's a bit of a switch on the shooting guards order, but I'm with it. So who's next?
After that, I'm interested in going Frankie Bryan.
Okay.
I wouldn't hate Ralph Beard, although I do have Ralph Beard dropping a little bit more. And I wouldn't hate doing Don Ole. Really, I'm just open to renegotiating a fair amount. Tell me your favorite shooting guard left on the list. I know you still have some Frank Ramsey stock.
I still like Ramsey. Let's just do Ramsey. Yeah, that's what we had said initially. He wins 7 championships and he plays big minutes in the finals. So he is a piece of that. We'll put him down. Okay. Where did he go? There he is. Okay, that is 72. Now, was there another small forward? So the next small forward after.
So we could go back to Rodney McRae.
Yeah.
We could talk Jim McMillan. I think McMillan's contributions are really solid to the 72 Lakers, but they're also really brief, and they trade him away after basically the next year. Like it's.
Here's my thought process with McMillan. If he gets drafted to the Suns instead of Van Arsdale, what does that look like? Because he was putting up great numbers on historically great teams at the same time. And if could he have gotten 26 a night on those? Like we won't know that.
I don't think so. Just the style of his play. The thing that allowed him to score is he wasn't super great in the half court, but he was a good off-ball cutter, and he was really good at running the fast break. And so I think if you take him away from Jerry West being able to find him, Wilt Chamberlain being able to find him, and drawing the defense away, and you say, all right, here's the ball, go create, I think you're limited. And I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing at this point in the list. I don't know that anybody's really creating here. But I don't think if you swapped him and Van Arsdale, I think the Lakers are just as good with Van Arsdale. I don't think the Suns are as good with McMillan.
Can you still hear me?
You kind of cut out there for a moment.
All right. I froze up first. I could hear you totally fine. I just couldn't tap back over for some reason.
Yeah.
McMillan
if you disagreed with me, I just talked over you.
No, so. I heard you. I wasn't saying anything. McMillan plays the second most minutes a night on the 72 Lakers in the finals, and he's averaging 43 a game. Like I think he's not shooting very well, but like this is one of the best teams ever, and they're like, this is our forward. He has to be out there. I think we've already made the gap plenty big between him and Van Arsdale. If you think that's there, which I don't even know which could be argued, and so let's just put McMillan in now.
Okay, I'm fine with that. So we still have some gaps of guys that have fallen. Any interest in Bob Boozer or Zydrunas Ilgauskas?
How about we pay some respects to McRae? We say, hey, we had him way higher before this. He is very good. He made 2 all-defensive teams. One was a first team. He played big minutes on a finals team. Great rebounding forward. The playmaking is there.
Great passing forward.
Yeah. It's incredibly versatile. I mean, starts all 20 games, 42 minutes a night, 13, 6 and 6 with great defense for a finals team. I think that's exactly what we're looking for.
Okay. I like it. I like it. And as the Ringer oral history talks about, his playmaking opens up the floor for the Rockets. It's not just Kareem having to guard Hakeem and trying to like figure out how he's going to pace himself um between Hakeem and Sampson, but when you get McRae to the middle of the floor and he touches that ball, now it's decision time. Does Kareem step up? Does he go to the right block? Does he go to the left block? Basically, wherever he moves, McRae is a smart enough, good enough passer that it's just destructive. So I'll take it.
I'm so interested in what we saw in Bob Boozer because I kind of like AC Green more. When I see Boozer, he is like the first pick or a territorial pick to Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Lucas kind of gets him out of there. He goes to the Knicks, doesn't really fit in there. Goes to the Lakers, fits in less. Goes to the expansion Bulls, is good, makes an all-star team, but they aren't very good. Um, goes to another expansion team in Seattle. Like the numbers are good. He does play like a key reserve role in the 71 Bucks, but I'm just not that interested. He plays big minutes in the playoffs one time. He's kind of just all over the place in the 60s, right? AC Green is like a legitimate contributor to good teams for a really long time.
So I think the thing that we saw with Bob is a bit of just recency bias. And I was reading Oscar Robertson's autobiography, and Oscar speaks very glowingly of Bob. He says that since he would have won a title if they didn't cheap out and move Bob, because he believes that Bob could have been the three. You could have had kind of a combo, him and Jerry Lucas out there. Bob's defensive abilities is he also shines some light on Bob being an Olympian and being the guy that's like, I don't need to score. I can pass, I can defend, I'll do the little stuff. He basically was the Olympics version of what we saw Devin Booker do. And so I think when you see him bounce around and not do as much, Bob was not concerned about his numbers. Bob was concerned about team success and winning. And that doesn't mean we necessarily have to have him over AC Green, but I think that's what we saw. That's my justification for why we have Boozer this high.
I guess I care more if he was winning, if he saw that sacrifice, but he's not.
Sure.
I think that's the problem I'm having. He plays in 10 playoff series, he wins 5 of them. 3 of them come in a reserve role. Like he plays over
I
30
guess
minutes a game in 2 playoff series, both for the Bulls. And so for Green, I just think you get these like 3 championship rings. You get the All-Star appearance just the same as Boozer, and he plays in 32 playoff series. He averages 26 minutes in 5 finals appearances. I don't know. I'll say we can keep Boozer there if you feel strongly about it, because that we felt like that once upon a time, but I wouldn't mind the switch.
Yeah, I guess I'm also just not as into AC Green. I know Green is playing minutes, and I guess his what is it, 87 or 88, he, um, where he's really impactful with his rebounding. But I guess I'm not super interested in AC Green. I feel like he has a really easy job playing next to Magic, Kareem, James Worthy, and it's just rebound and play defense. And um, the fact that the early part of his career is the best part of his career, and
Yeah.
it never really gets better. Um,
Can I offer a
91.
super switch?
I love super switches.
A super swap? In the 1975 ABA Eastern Division semifinals, the St. Louis played the New York Nets. Marvin Barnes averaged 30 points, 60 rebounds, and 2 assists, and the Spirits of St. Louis won that series in 5 games. He did this against Dr. J, the best player in that league, Larry Keenan, Billy Paltz, Bill Malcioni, and Brian Taylor, all guys that are going to make this list like legitimate talents. Um, it's one of like, the greatest ABA playoff series ever played, and it's shocking. You see Dr. J three-peat as MVP and win these titles. Like what happened in '75? It's like he got his ass whooped by Marvin Barnes, dude.
I love it. I love
That's
it. I mean, it's so short, and it's so short because Marvin Barnes is a dumbass and ruins his career, and literally like I forget who does the interview, who honestly it might have been Bob Ryan, but he's interviewing in Marvin Barnes like on the telephone, and Barnes just like sets down the phone and goes and buys cocaine. Like it just Barnes lost his car in a superstore parking lot. It wasn't stolen. He just couldn't find where he parked it. He robbed a store in his Letterman's jacket with his name. Like Barnes's
yeah,
decline wasn't about coming to the NBA. It was about his mental capacities not being there. But what we saw for those brevity, the brief moments, whew,
it was incredible. It really was.
incredible.
I looked back at our power forwards list. We had Bob Boozer above some of the guys. I don't know what's going on, but I think it all should line up. And I'm gonna pay $50 for anyone that can figure out if my list line up. Like, DM me on Patreon. Say how like if these are the inconsistencies, I'll send you $50. Don't actually do that. I do not have that money. With Barnes, I think you see a vulnerable person and a lot of money instantaneously. In the '70s, cocaine was like weed. I mean, people had no idea of the impacts that could have or how addictive that was. It was just like a party drug. Everyone did like you had money. What'd you do with it? You wouldn't buy coke with it. And I think you saw like he was a good person, but just it was around the wrong people and did the wrong things. That's that. I think that
Well,
it's more of a story of like of misfortune than I think is necessarily like that he was destined for failure. But I think either way,
sure.
the result is the same. I just want to talk about like uh, of because he's not the only player that did a bunch of coke and flamed out around this time, and this happens to a lot of people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I recently read Blackball, well, and they do a lot of justice to the cocaine, and not just basketball, but in football and in baseball and in hockey. And like in the mid '70s, the NBA commissioner had to ban teams, equipment managers, and like training staff from giving players coke
It was
because
that popular.
like like the equipment staff, the trainers, they're giving players illicit drugs because they're like, oh hey, yeah, you're a little bit tired before the game. This will help you out. They're giving them, opioid painkillers, and like they did make it out to be a lot of a black problem, but also the commissioner had to go around and say, hey, team ownership and like staffs, maybe stop giving your players drugs. Like
Hmm. They
like
made it
cocaine
out to
wasn't the
be
only drug, but
a black problem because of course they did when it's like okay when it is the
it
white
was a
ownership
cultural
and it is
problem. It
the
was
and it was the yeah, and so I imagine what that was like in the '70s and '80s, and I get that.
yeah,
It's quite an interesting story of why because the cocaine takes like more hold in like the early '80s. Like David Stern kind of comes in and like writes that ship. When the league, but that's when the league like kind of explodes in popularity. You have so much more money coming in. When the money was there, the drugs were there, and you have like Michael Ray Richardson and like Ralph Sampson. And David Thompson, and it's like you had access to this, and it just destroyed so many careers. Okay, that's 375.
would you like to figure out a way to read the 375, or would you like me to try to read
Oh,
the
I got it. I got it.
okay?
All right. Starting at 351 with Guy Rogers, then Nikola Vucevic, Al Jefferson, Gerald Wallace, Brad Miller, Larry Costello, Derek Harper, Marcus Camby, Dick Van Arsdale, Goran Dragic, Sharif Abdul-Rahim, Xavier McDaniel, Mark Jackson, Kevin Willis. Juwan Howard is 365, then Cliff Robertson, Fred Brown, Sam Lacey, Scott Webman, Hershey Hawkins, Jeff Malone, Frank Ramsey, Jim McMillan, Rodney McRae, and Marvin Barnes. And all of the positional changes that we make, I update on my positional list as we do it immediately because I will forget. So I do it as soon as it happens. And so if you're like, is he changing that? I am. And if you find my positional list, you can see those changes.
Excellent. Because I'm going to cut this for audio purposes and put it out on the podcast, Aaron, where can the people find you?
Possible Chairs on TikTok, Possible Chairs on Twitter. You can find me fighting with the entire Orlando Magic fan base. You also find me on Cameo, where I will do anything for money. Pay me to say anything. I'll push any narratives. As well as my Patreon. You can find these lists and my positional lists and other good stuff.
Excellent. My name is Nathan Schwartz. You can find me, Nate_Hoops on TikTok. Also, email the show, hoopstemple@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you guys. We did a mailbag episode a while back. It was a lot of fun. Please keep sending in your email submissions.